Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Cole Phillips, author of The Adventure of the Twisted Truths and host of the Book and Dagger. And today we're going to be continuing our journey of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. We're going to be reading chapter 7 today, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Chapter 7, Queer Lodgings. So basically after the Eagles have rescued Bilbo and the dwarves and Gandalf from the goblins, they carry them a little ways, they fly them off the mountain a little ways into the forest and set them down so they can continue their journey. And Gandalf says that they need help because they need supplies and they need just food and they need lodgings for a bit. So Gandalf tells the dwarves and Bilbo he's going to take them to somebody very important. And the dwarves are all asking, who is it? And Gandalf says, this somebody I spoke of is a very great person. You must all be very polite when I introduce you. I shall introduce you slowly, two by two, I think, and you must be careful not to annoy him, or heaven knows what will happen. He can be appalling when he is angry, though he is kind enough of humor. Still, I warn you, he gets angry easy. So then all the dwarves start complaining. They're like, why can't you take us to someone more better-tempered? And they start asking about him. And Gandalf says that he is a skin changer. Sometimes he is a huge black bear. Sometimes he is a great, strong, black-haired man with huge arms and a great beard. I cannot tell you more, though that ought to be enough. Some say that he is a bear descended from the great and ancient bears of the mountains that lived here before the giants came. Others say that he is a man descended from the first men who lived before Smaug or the other dragons came into this part of the world, and before the goblins came into the hills out of the north. I cannot say, though I fancy the last is the true tale. He is not the sort of person to ask questions of. Anyway, so Gandalf then proceeds to take them, and they approach this one area, and they start noticing there's beehives, which Gandalf says this man named Beorn keeps massive bees bigger than hornets, for his honey and stuff. And so Gandalf, they get to a thorn hedge, and Gandalf says, "You had better wait here," to the dwarves, "and when I call or whistle, begin to come after me. You will see the way I go, but only in pairs, mind. About 5 minutes between each pair of you. Bombur is fattest, and will do for two. He had better come alone. I'll come alone and last. Come on, Mr. Baggins. There's a gate somewhere around this way." And Gandalf and Bilbo go ahead. They find the gate, and they see two horses who, when they see Gandalf and Bilbo, they trot off. Gandalf says the horses have gone to tell Beorn of the strangers arriving. And soon they reached a courtyard, 3 walls of which were formed by the wooden house and its 2 long wings. In the middle there was lying a great oak trunk with many lopped branches beside it. Standing near was a huge man with a thick black beard and hair, and great bare arms and legs with knotted muscles. He was clothed in a tunic of wool down to his knees, and he was leaning on a large axe. The horses were standing by him with their noses at his shoulder. "Ugh, here they are," he said to the horses. "They don't look dangerous. You can be off." He laughed a great rolling laugh, put down his axe, and came forward. "Who are you, and what do you want?" he asked gruffly, standing in front of them and towering tall above Gandalf. As for Bilbo, he could have easily trotted through his legs without ducking his head to miss the fringe of the man's brown tunic. "I am Gandalf," said the wizard. "Never heard of him," growled the man. "And what's this little fellow?" he said, stooping down to frown at the hobbit with his bushy black eyebrows. "That is Mr. Baggins, a hobbit of good family and unimpeachable reputation," said Gandalf. Bilbo bowed. He had no hat to take off, and was painfully conscious of his many missing buttons. "I am a wizard," continued Gandalf. "I have heard of you, if you have not heard of me, but perhaps you have heard of my good cousin Radagast, who lives near the southern borders of Mirkwood." "Yes, not a bad fellow as wizards go, I believe. I used to see him now and then again," said Beorn. "Well, now I know who you are, or who you say you are. What do you want?" "To tell you the truth, we have lost our luggage and nearly lost our way, and are rather in need of help, or at least of advice. I may say we have had a rather bad time with goblins in the mountains." "Goblins?" said the big man less gruffly. "Oh ho, so you've been having trouble with them, have you? What did you go near them for?" "We did not mean to. They surprised us at night in a pass which we had to cross. We were coming out of the lands over west into these countries. It is a long tale." "Then you had better come inside and tell me some of it, if it won't take all day," said the man, leading the way through a dark door that opened out of the courtyard into the house. Following them, they found themselves in a wide hall with a fireplace in the middle. Though it was summer, there was a wood fire burning, and smoke was rising to the blackened rafters in search of the way out through an opening in the roof. They passed through this dim hall, lit only by the fire and the hole above it, and came through another smaller door into a sort of veranda, propped up on wooden posts made of single tree trunks. It faced south and was still warm and filled with the light of the westering sun, which slanted into it and fell golden on the garden full of flowers that came right up to the steps. Here they sat on wooden benches while Gandalf began his tale, and Bilbo swung his dangling legs and looked at the flowers in the garden, wondering what their names could be, as he had never seen half of them before. "I was coming over the mountains with a friend or two," said the wizard. "Or two? I can only see one, and a little one at that," said Beorn. "Well, to tell you the truth, I did not like to bother you with a lot of us until I found out if you were busy. I will give a call if I may." "Go on, call away." So Gandalf gave a long shrill whistle, and presently Thorin and Dori came around the house by the garden path and stood bowing low before them. "One or two or three, you meant, I see," said Beorn. "But these aren't hobbits, they are dwarves." "Thorin Oakenshield, at your service." "Dori, at your service," said the two dwarves, bowing again. "I don't need your service, thank you," said Beorn, "but I expect you need mine. I am not overly fond of dwarves, but if it is true that you are Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thror, I believe, and that your companion is respectable, and that you are enemies of goblins and not up to any mischief in my lands, what are you up to, by the way?" "They are on their way to visit the land of their fathers, away east beyond Mirkwood," put in Gandalf, "and it is entirely by accident that we are in your lands at all. We were crossing by the high pass that should have brought us to the road that lies to the south of your country when we were attacked by the evil goblins, as I was about to tell you." "Go on telling then," said Beorn, who was never very polite. "There was a terrible storm. The stone giants were out hurling rocks. At the head of the pass we took refuge in a cave, the Hobbit and I and several of our companions." "Do you call two several?" "Well, no, as a matter of fact, there were more than two." "Where are they? Killed, eaten, gone home?" "Well, no, they don't seem at all to have come when I whistled. Shy, I expect. You see, we are very much afraid that we are rather a lot for you to entertain." "Go on, whistle again. I'm in for a party, it seems, and one or two won't make much difference," growled Beorn. Gandalf whistled again, but Nori and Ori were there almost before he had stopped them, for if you remember, Gandalf had told them to come in pairs every 5 minutes. "Hello," said Beorn. "You came pretty quick. Where were you hiding? Come on in, Jack-in-the-Boxes." "Nori, at your service. Ori, at—" they began, but Beorn interrupted them. "Thank you. When I want your help, I will ask for it. Sit down and let's get on with this tale, or it'll be supper time before it is ended." Anyway, so Gandalf then proceeds to introduce all the dwarves like this, telling a little bit of the story and then stopping the story and bringing a couple more in, which Bilbo proceeds to see is actually very, very clever of Gandalf. Because, as they said, Beorn doesn't like entertaining visitors, but Gandalf was telling me the story and the dwarves coming in were interrupting it, so that made Beorn all the more anxious to hear the story and kept him from kicking out the dwarves like he usually would have done with anyone else. Anyway, so Gandalf finishes the tale, tells him everything, and Gandalf is very pleased, and he says, "A very good tale, the best I have heard for a long while. If all beggars could tell such a good one, they might find me kinder. You may be making it up, of course, but you deserve a supper for that story all the same. Let's have something to eat." Anyway, so Beorn's animals come in, and they carry in food and stuff, and they set this table for Bilbo and the dwarves and Gandalf. They have a massive feast, and then they sing a song, and they go to sleep, and they end up staying at Beorn's place for several days, where they get lots of good food and lots of good rest. And Beorn is gone for a couple days, and when he comes back, he's in actually a very good mood, and he tells them all kinds of good stories, and he tells them that he has been out looking, like, in his bear form, tracking goblins, and he found a goblin and a warg, and he basically got them to tell him the story that they were tracking these. He found out goblins and wargs are tracking this party of dwarves, which confirms Gandalf's story that he told Beorn. And Beorn then says, "It was a good story, that of yours, but I like it still better now that I'm sure it is true. You must forgive me for not taking your word. If you lived near the edge of Mirkwood, you would take the word of no one that you did not know as well as your brother, or better. As it is, I can only say that I have hurried home as fast as I could to see that you are safe and to offer you any help I can. I shall think more kindly of dwarves after this. Killed the great goblin. Killed the great goblin," he chuckled fiercely to himself. Anyway, so then Beorn proceeds. He promises, he gives them ponies to ride to the edge of Mirkwood. He gives them food, nuts, flowers, sealed jars of dried fruit, red earthenware pots of honey, and twice-baked cakes. And he warns them not to touch any water in Mirkwood because it's very dangerous. Then he says, "This is all the advice I can give you. Beyond the edge of the forest, I cannot help you much. You must depend on your luck and your courage and the food I send with you. At the gate of the forest, I must ask you to send back my horse and my ponies. But I wish you all speed, and my house is open to you if ever you come back this way again." They thanked him, of course, with many bows and sweeping of their hoods with many a At your service, O master of the wide wooden halls. And then they go to Mirkwood. And it is there at Mirkwood that Gandalf says he has to go because he has important business to attend to. So, and Gandalf says, you must send back these excellent ponies you have borrowed, and I must leave for important business. And the dwarves were inclined to grumble at this, but the wizard told them they were fools. Beorn is not as far off as you seem to think, and you had better keep your promises anyway, for he is a bad enemy. Mr. Baggins's eyes are sharper than yours, if you have not seen each night after dark a great bear going along with us or sitting far off in the moon watching our camps. Not only to guard you and guide you, but to keep an eye on the ponies too. Beorn may be your friend, but he loves his animals as his children. You do not guess what kindness he has shown you in letting dwarves ride them so far and so fast, nor what would happen to you if you tried to take them into the forest. And so then Gandalf said, the dwarves again try to keep Gandalf from going. Gandalf says, it is no use arguing. I have, as I already told you, some pressing business away south, and I'm already late through bothering with you people. We may meet again before all is over. Then again, of course, we may not. That depends on your luck and on your courage and sense, and I'm sending Mr. Baggins with you. I've told you before that he has more about him than you guess. You will find that out before long. So cheer up, Bilbo, and don't look glum. Cheer up, Thorin and company. This is your expedition, after all. Think of the treasure at the end, and forget the forest and the dragon at any rate until tomorrow morning. And then they head off into the woods, and Gandalf rides off on his horse to take the ponies back to Beorn's house and then go off to his pressing business. And Gandalf says, goodbye, and really goodbye. Be good, take care of yourself, and don't leave the path. Then he galloped away and was soon lost to sight. Oh, goodbye and go away, grunted the dwarves, all the more angry because they were really filled with dismay at losing him. Now began the most dangerous part of all the journey. They each shouldered the heavy pack and the waterskin which was their share, and turned from the light that lay on the lands outside and plunged into the forest. That ends chapter 7, and we will be back with chapter 8 soon.